I'm good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to sit in.
I'm
I,
glad
I
that you.
even got my coffee mug. I tried to replicate my mark as best possible, but I'm surprised I don't have a vineyard mug. But to his credit, I do have a vineyard little coffee plate.
Yes, he likes to vacation on the vineyard. So
Yes,
he's always
yes. He's
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 for
very steady with that coffee mug.
yes he is. And for somebody that's always chuckling about Massachusetts and Boston, he spends an awful
Hmm.
lot of time up there.
He
So
sure does. Everyone does. Look. I think I came on the show before to talk
yes,
about a little bit about that. Deep down
yeah,
inside, everybody likes Boston or likes
everybody likes Boston.
Massachusetts.
I
Just a little bit. Just a
just a
little bit.
a little bit. Antonio and I actually went to Boston College together. So people that are like not really sure if I went to BC, she went to BC. She actually finished. She actually did law school at BC. But
I
I
can vouch
actually
for you.
That's right. I was an actual student at Boston College some years
Right.
ago,
That's right.
and real excited that you granted to get up early in the
Yes.
morning
Yes. I am
to
excited.
do this work. And it's actually interesting. You also do a lot of work around criminal justice with young folk, and Mark does a lot of that here in Philadelphia. So, really grateful that you are here with us. Hey, family, if you're listening to us right now, can you go to the uh, Word Radio uh, program on Facebook, on Word Radio TV, and you can hit that share button right now. Share it with your family and your friends
Family
to let them know that
friends.
we're on the air. And you can do that. I'm actually doing that right now, which is why I look distracted at the moment because I'm actually pumping it out so people
Into
know that
right.
we're here. Because I have a tendency, I
That's
send it not, I just don't put it on my page. I send it out to other pages that I'm watching and listening to and things like that, so people know that we are actually on the air. You can find us also on
everyone.
YouTube at Forward as well, and you can listen to us on the Word Radio app. And we're live on the air, 900 AM and 96.1 FM as well. So, you can never have an excuse to not be able to listen to
Right.
WRD and to check out the Power Hour in the morning. And just for those of you that are checking in now, we have a special guest. Antonio Soros Thompson is going to be sitting in for the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, who is away today. And so we are just really grateful for you
Thank you.
taking
Thank
your
you.
time out of your busy schedule to do that. All right, there's a lot happening in the news.
Yes.
And, I know we're going to spend some time talking about federal stuff today. And we are going to take some callers in the last 20 minutes of the call. So if you're interested in being a part of the conversation with the topics that we are talking about, you can call us at 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. And we'll be taking calls the last third of the time that we have together today. So I want to start. We kind of talked about this just a little bit yesterday, but this is actually getting really hysterical. Watching what's happening to Rudy Giuliani right now.
Yeah.
So those that know Donald Trump,
Let me
right?
get ready
So,
for this.
and I know we're going to talk about Trump a little bit, just a little bit, just a little
Just
bit
a little
today.
bit.
There's some other stuff in the news we need to talk about too. So Trump is not talking to Giuliani now. He's pissed with a whole bunch of people because he feels like they did not back him up and do everything because, he doesn't like losers. And so Giuliani was charging him $20,000 a day. He's ordered his people not to pay his bills. He's not taking his phone calls right now. It's actually interesting. So historically, Trump, when he had the Trump casino in Atlantic City, one of the things that came out when he was running was that he didn't pay people. That there were a whole lot of small businesses that went under because they had big contracts with him to do work. And then on the back end, he wouldn't pay them. And then he would start suing them. And so that eventually it bankrupted their businesses and got rid of it. So now his buddy, Rudy Giuliani, who's been one of his fiercest advocates, and until just a week and a half ago, was his homie that was out there fighting for him, telling the people to go and engage in
Inciting a
heavy
riot.
combat. He said heavy
Mm-hmm.
combat. I can't believe he said that. Is
Mm-hmm.
now in big trouble. Is now in big trouble.
Yep.
I don't know, Tony, what are you thinking about all this?
Well, I think it makes sense, right? This has been Giuliani's MO since the beginning with Trump. And Trump is known to here in New York and as a businessman to just never follow through on his contracts and pay his debt. So this is, to me, it's not a shock. In fact, I think it's even like cheap that it was 20 grand that he was charging him per day. I thought it would be a much higher number, and it probably is. I think, from what we're hearing, but this makes total sense. This is just how Trump works. And so I don't think anybody should be shocked that he would turn on his closest buddy there. And then half the time when we listened to Giuliani, he was ridiculous. His press conferences, he is such has fallen from grace. I think at 9/11, and I will give him that credit. I will give him the credit when he was mayor of how he handled 9/11 and the response, because he was phenomenal in New York, being in New York at that time and needing that comfort in that direction of how the city was going to manage when that happened. He was fantastic. And I think a lot of that maybe boosted his confidence and made him feel like he was above and beyond to move him to this attitude that he has of that he just can't be touched. So I think it makes sense. I think it's sad to see, but I also think that he has to be held accountable. This is who he laid down with, so you can't be surprised.
But here's the thing: like at one point, this was America's mayor, right? This was the guy that was providing comfort to not only New York City but to the country after the attacks on 9/11, and now such a deep fall from grace. And I mean, you're a member of the New York Bar, and now the New York Bar is trying to disbar him.
And it won't just be him. It'll be all of those folks that have law licenses. It's pretty easy, right? You are, I remember sitting in con law through law school. You went to the bars, you took the bar, you passed it, and then you took an oath, just as you would take an oath as a doctor, right? You are going to defend the Constitution. You are going to abide by the law that you are meant to protect as your career. So it is very easy to go to a bar, and anybody can do it. Any of us that are out there could call the New York Bar Association and issue a complaint against an attorney, whether it was ineffective assistance, they ripped me off with my bill, whatever. We have a whole code of ethic that we follow. And this is like the easiest check. You cannot go out and incite riots. You cannot go out there and blatantly violate the law. It's just an easy peasy. It's like, let's go. So I think, does it matter to him? I don't know if it's going to put a dent in his wallet not to have his license. He definitely can't get out there and be in court, but he's older, and he's ready to probably retire from the law. But all of them, not just him, any of them that are licensed in any state, and I've seen on Facebook and other places, there is a huge push as attorneys to get those petitions and go to those bar associations and get these folks disbarred.
What's that process look like?
It's a letter to the Bar Association that says, listen, you govern and you give out these licenses to attorneys to allow them to go into court and practice and get money for what they do. But more so to just go in and file paperwork in a court. So it's very easy to go in and say, listen, this person took an oath. I remember my swearing in. I'm looking, at my licenses here. Right. And that's it. You are here to defend the constitutions, the law of this country, the law of our states, and uphold them. You can't break them, right?
So somebody sues the Bar Association to get somebody disbarred. So what's that process look like for the person getting disbarred?
So a complaint is filed, and then the Bar Association is obligated to do an investigation. So it can be as small as, like I was just saying, ineffective assistance. This attorney did not do the work that they were supposed to do. This attorney put me in a worse place than I was when, I started this court process. And then they investigate it. And it's not a criminal burden, beyond a reasonable doubt. It's whether or not they did it. And so they then do an investigation. They bring that attorney in front of them. They have their own tribunal of folks that will hear these cases. They hear the facts, and then they make a decision. And it could be, the worst thing is you get disbarred and you can't practice law. And they could be from, 3 months to 6 months to years to complete disbarment. This right here will be a complete disbarment. Like you do not deserve to be practicing law because you broke the law at the highest level of how we can break it. So it's an easier process to go through to get an attorney disbarred. So I think this is a slam dunk. I think all of them, any of these attorneys, it's the easiest way to go in and get them disbarred.
Wow. Well, Sheila Washington Booker on Facebook said, Bishop read Giuliani. Sometimes people just lose it. Giuliani used to be America's mayor, and Ben Carson used to be brilliant. Oh my goodness,
Mm,
you got that right.
mm.
It is a thing that we need to be very careful about. That you get in Donald Trump's orbit somehow or another, his stock goes up and yours falls apart.
Yep.
So
Just
be
sucks it all from you.
Absolutely does. Absolutely does. Raphael says Rudy Giuliani is trying to be like all those New York City mobsters that he put in jail. It's called
He
psychological
might he
transference.
might be one of them. What I
Well,
mean,
you know,
he became a little gangsta himself. And I think what we need to pay attention to, though, in the context of the criminal justice system, is that they're not too far apart, right? You had the
right,
mayor; he was tough on crime. He was going after the bad guys and so forth. And then you have Trump, who just detests Black people. Like you have the Central Park Five. He was
right.
taking out full pages in the newspaper. And they were completely innocent children. So it's not a stretch to see these two guys, this prosecutor and Donald Trump, coming together to join forces against all evil. And all evil is the American people in this situation. And of course, we've always been the evil, the Black folks under the thumb. But now it's the American people that we see that they're going against. So I think it's either his ego fed into that thing and it just took it to another level of holier than thou. And hopefully, I'm hoping that we hold them accountable, because to not hold them accountable, I just feel it's just such a disgrace for the United States if we don't.
Well, let's talk about holding people accountable for a minute. So there are some deep ties to what has happened in the riot last week here to the Pennsylvania area. Robert Sanford, 55, of Pennsylvania, a former Chester City Fire Department employee, he was a firefighter in Chester City, was the guy caught throwing, well, he's accused of being the guy caught throwing the fire extinguisher that hit several officers in the head, including, we think, the officer that died from being hit in the head from the fire extinguisher. So Sanford retired from the Chester County Fire Department. This is in the Huffington Post. And he actually turned himself in because a friend of his contacted the feds to turn him in. Now, wait, folks are just turning people in left and right on this. I'm like, wow, that's deep.
Of course.
That's deep.
Of course.
There's a young lady that turned her parents in. People are calling in and turning in
I
their
saw
friends
a
and
wife. A
family.
wife turned her husband in, right?
Wow, that's deep. I hadn't seen that one, but yeah, this is really tragic. And people are saying, oh, this guy is not that bad, although they did find a Proud Boy T-shirt in his house. So I'm curious to see how. I mean, there were thousands of people out there, but and I think the people that were on the grounds who were protesting are one thing, but it's the people that rolled into the building, that went into the chambers, that need to be really looked at and questioned in terms of what's happening. So this is a real thing going on here that we really need to take a look at. And then there's a new congressman in office, Michigan Congressman Peter Meijer, that went out and bought body armor to protect himself when he's going in and out of the Capitol and when he's out and about, because he has gotten death threats from these people. Now, Michigan's a little crazy, right? So before the riots happened in the Capitol, Michigan got rushed during the height of the COVID season. Governor Whitmer was in the Capitol building when armed people showed up and were trying to kidnap her.
Yep.
Which I'm sure were some of the people that were actually down at the action last week, the riots last week, the insurrection last week. And so he says, look, he's one of the 10 Republicans who have voted to impeach Trump. He's gotten several death threats. And now he is getting a body armor so that he can wear it when he is out and about, because it's just the point that we've come to in this country. I don't even know what to make of that.
Well, I don't know how they weren't having some sense of security as these elected officials go about their business, because they would, to me, they would always be in the spotlight or a target, right? So I feel that, of course, they need to do that. And we've seen, I think, attacks on some of our politicians in public. So that's only going to be heightened as this goes on, as people feel their oats and think that they can just attack these people. So I think I don't see how they weren't doing that before. I think they all should have some type of security. And I think if we think of it in the context of our history, like if a president's assassinated, right, it's an attack on us, as American people. That's right. So how is it different if one of these politicians is assassinated?
That's right.
Kidnapped, right? And that's what we're talking about. And so I find, why aren't we taking it as serious as that? This was an attack on our politicians, but it's an attack on America. So we would feel bad or feel the pain if they were just assassinated one day, they were kidnapped, because we would say to ourselves, wow, this is an elected official. This is a person that works in the capital of the United States of America. So I don't see why they all should have some type of security, and we need to take it to that level that when we see these videotapes and people are snitching on others, as they should. They should, because these are terrorists. These were people, they were not trying to go in there and have a conversation, right? What would have happened if they were there, if our representatives, elected officials were there? They would have been held captive. Who knows what would have happened, but it wouldn't have been a nice little conversation, a little debate. They were going in there with the intent of causing harm and chaos and disrupting all of our rights. Mm-hmm.
And kidnapping and possibly killing. Congressionally, they were trying to take Nancy Pelosi out.
They were, and I hate to say it, they might have.
Yeah.
They might have been successful.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're up on our first break, and when we come back on the other side, we're actually going to flip the script, y'all, and we're actually going to talk about what real national leadership looks like. Joe Biden's new plan for economic stimulus. So you're listening to the Power Hour with Antonia Soares Thompson as guest co-host today, and Dwayne Royster. We'll be right back.
Hey, WURD family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations, because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Livelihood, the new initiative from WURD Radio, connecting Philadelphians to jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour, hosted by Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne David Royster. Mark is out today, but sitting in for him is Antonia Soares Thompson, counselor and child advocate, and of course, my college friend, who was a former radio host in both Connecticut and New York. Antonia, thanks again for being here with us today.
No problem.
Awesome.
I want to throw out one little conspiracy that I have in my head, because we are talking about Giuliani, and I just detest him. I don't think it would be a stretch, and I would not be shocked as we see the investigation behind some of these politicians who actually let people into the White House, gave them easy access, and the whole conspiracy that I have that the police weren't there and there was a reason why. But I wouldn't be shocked if we later find out that part of this coordination of this coup was Giuliani. Because I think, when we think about 9/11 and the fact that it was the World Trade Center, which for American history is capitalism. It's all about the heart of the financial world. It was very intentional as to why they were attacking those buildings the way that they did. So I don't think it's a stretch that all of a sudden we have people who are saying, you know what? Let's go for the symbolism. Let's go for the place, the ultimate place of power. Let's go for where it is sacred ground as far as American politics and the enforcement of the Constitution. Let's go to the Capitol and do this and send this message. Of course, they were keeping out that it's domestic terrorism, that you are going to war with your own people. You're attacking your own people, and it was the call of the president to do this against his own people. So I've been thinking a lot about that. And as we see all these videotapes and all these investigations come out, people, I think I would not be shocked if he was part of the blueprint of doing this.
Yeah, this occurred to me as I'm sitting there thinking about this. So a lot of folk don't know that I work for Faith in Action down in D.C. Our office used to be in the Methodist building, which was literally across the street from the Capitol and across the street from the U.S. Supreme Court. And if those folk had been successful there, it wouldn't have been anything for them to turn around and go after the Supreme Court, which is right behind them. Now, they would never think about overrunning the White House, not because of Secret Service, but because Donald Trump is there.
That's
but
right.
They would not have a problem going after both the Capitol building and potentially the Supreme Court, which is, it just occurred to me as we're thinking about this, we're really focusing on the Capitol, but in our governmental system, we have 3 equal divisions. And I think Donald Trump has lost sight of that. But we have 3 equal divisions, right? There is the executive branch, which is Trump. There's the legislative branch, which is both the House and the Senate, also referred to collectively as the Congress. And then there is the U.S. Supreme Court, right, which is the judiciary. And all 3 of these are actually meant to be in balance with each other, right? They check each other. These are the checks and the balances. And so, but 2 of those branches are literally feet away from each other. And so it wouldn't have been anything. Those protesters were actually probably coming into the Capitol building from the side that they were coming in. They were probably coming in right off of Maryland Avenue right there, where in First Street, and probably walk right past the U.S. Supreme Court. I can only imagine what was going on in the Supreme Court watching all of this, because now it actually puts at risk the lives of the Supreme Court justices, who potentially, it was a Wednesday, so they were probably in the building doing their work that day. That mob could have flipped around on them just like that, and they could have been in the Supreme Court. And if they had taken out the Supreme Court and the Capitol, the only branch that still exists at that point then is the presidency.
Yep.
That's
but I think because we allowed this president for 4 years to be the bully, right, to put names to his hate, right, Pelosi, all those folks, it was always this very, bullying statement that he'd have against people, and then there'd be a reaction from his followers against those individuals. So I think part of it is that the people, they were thinking about the Constitution and making America great again, as far as white is right. But I also think they were putting their hatred towards specific people that they felt were creating this injustice and stole this election from them. And that's specifically because Donald Trump was saying it. It was his narrative. It was his actions that put these people in the minds of these folks as we have to stop that particular person from doing this particular thing so that we can remain in power. As diluted as it is and how it does not make sense at all, what they forgot was the millions and millions and millions of fellow Americans who casted a vote, who had the same rights that they did, and that didn't matter to them. It just mattered about the power and this process that was happening that they felt physically they were going to stop, therefore, and everything was going to be hunky-dory had they been successful. And, Trump, what would he have done? He probably would have sat there the next day like, okay, Supreme Court, everybody, look, the people have spoken. We kind of got to look at this again. We didn't certify this electoral. Like, what would he have said had they been successful?
He'd have been like, I told you I won.
I think you're right.
I think that's what he would have said. And we probably would have been in some form of civil war at that point, too. But That's really dangerous. Well, look, let's switch gears here for a minute, and just want to remind folks the phone lines will be open at in just a little bit. So 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. I want to switch gears because now we have a real president that's coming in office. Somebody that's got presidential stature and has been former vice president of the country. And so President-elect Joe Biden unveils his $1.9 trillion economic relief plan, which includes bigger checks, or a bigger one-time check, $1,400 direct payment. It extends unemployment benefits to $400 and extra per week, and it takes it all the way to September. Continues to support gig workers as well, like people doing Uber and other things will be able to do that. People who are self-employed would be able to apply for this as well. That could really do it. They continue eviction protections, foreclosure protections, things of that nature that are in this bill. It's 19-page outline, and it would not be the last, right? This would just be a stopgap that's put into place right now. This is what leadership looks like. Mm-hmm. We didn't read about this on a tweet.
That's right.
Right.
It has meat to it.
It's got real meat, substance to it. This is really about trying to get the economy going. It's actually interesting. One of the things that happened when one of the first bills came out with the extra $600 a month, $600 a week that people were getting for unemployment, was that the poverty rate in the U.S. dropped. And I'm like, I wonder if that's trying to tell us something. We had one of the presidential candidates, Andy, I can't think of his name right now, from the tech guy, who was trying to get us to do a universal basic income of $1,000 a month. I mean, what would happen if we actually I don't believe in these one-time checks, right? I think we need to have continuing support because there's some people that just aren't eligible for unemployment. And so if we really want to stimulate the economy, I'm getting ready to get on my economic soapbox again, that if we really want to stimulate the economy and make it work, you have to give money to the people in the lowest income brackets. And the reason you give money to the people in the lowest income brackets is that they're 100% consumers, meaning that every dollar, every penny in is a penny back out the door. You give money to rich people, they put it in the bank and they save it. You give money to poor folk, they churn the economy, meaning they have money, they go into the stores, they buy products. Now, people are like, oh, those are only retail products. But then those producers of those products then have to go and buy equipment to make those products. They have to go get specialists, mechanics to work on the products. They have to pay truck drivers to ship the products, right? It seriously churns the economy when you give money to the people that are in the working class, right? You want to create jobs. If you want to create jobs, you give money to the people that are at the lowest rung of the economic ladder because they will actually create the jobs by spending the money. So, I don't know. For me, I'm just like, I don't understand, and I'm not an economist. So let me just say that first and foremost, right? I'm not an economist.
That's what our disclaimer out.
I'm putting a little disclaimer out there, right? I did take economics in college. I'm not an economist, but it just seems to me that if we would be willing to buck this whole notion of American individualism and exceptionalism for a moment and just say for the next year, we're going to give everybody $1,000 a month, like below a certain, if you make less than $100,000 a year or $75,000 a year, we're going to give everybody $1,000 a month, and it doesn't affect your Medicaid, doesn't affect your other benefits that you have coming in. We could actually flip this country around. I think that would be very helpful.
Oh, it would be helpful. I don't think it's going to happen because although this is wonderful, it would narrow the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
So it's a big ask of what that would do, but that would be phenomenal. And it is such a joy that we now have a president who is respectful of the position that he is in and is able to articulate to everyone in a very professional, clear and concise way his path of how he feels he's going to bring back this country. So that is just a welcoming relief for me. Yes. And so I feel like this is totally a step in the right direction where people can now again become engaged and hopeful and just kind of try to put the past 4 years behind us, but that the commander-in-chief is now back. The president is back. We have someone that we can believe in, that we can trust, and is doing the right thing. To me, what I love about this is COVID. We are now putting COVID front and center, and we now, as a nation, have a plan as to how we're going to get over this. You know, March is a year. Right, a year that we've been dealing with this, and I don't feel, as far as the the presidency and the government, I feel safe. Right, I think more it's been depending on your governor, your mayor, your local politics of how this vaccine and the testing has rolled out. I haven't had a sense on a national level that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and now we'll start to see that.
Right. I think that's important. Let me just talk about a couple of the provisions here that he's doing. He's putting an additional $30 billion in rental and utilities assistance, $5 billion for housing for those at risk of homelessness, extension of the eviction moratorium, and then the increased nutrition benefit, and then more than $150 billion in funding for schools and funding for struggling transit systems, among other programs. That's actually a really impressive plan, especially for our schools. Like, I know you're not in the immediate area, but the Philadelphia school system has really struggled throughout this process. I mean, it took a long time to get technology together. We still have kids that are struggling with technology and using Wi-Fi and things of that nature, parents that are struggling because they've never really had to use these mechanisms before. So, the fact that we would do that, we just need to make sure that that funding is equitable, how it's distributed.
That's the key. That's the key.
What they did was they did an equality situation the last time in Pennsylvania. They divvied it up equally amongst the districts, but some districts need more than other districts. Some districts didn't need the money at all. They were able to go right to virtual with no problem. And some of our districts are really struggling with that, and we did not divide it up equitably.
Yeah, and I think this is a time where we saw over the summer with all the protests in response to George Floyd and so forth, there were tons of calls of action across the country of getting rid of systemic racism, being very self-reflective and intentional about changing the racist policies that are in place. This is a time that people can follow through on what they were talking about, right? This is the time where school districts can say, you know what, here is some funding that we can use to make sure that not only are we improving our school system, but we're doing the right hires. We are creating the important supports around special education and other things that will make our students successful. Like, to me, this is a key time for people in these positions that can change policy and change the systemic racism and close the gap, the achievement gap in education, because we're in a space where the money is there, but yet we're able to make really good decisions. So that, to me, is something that I'm going to be looking at. And another thing about some of these school districts, I know for here, some of them are going to have a surplus because, they weren't doing lunch the same way. There were certain services that were happening in the buildings. They saved on heat in other places. So I know in our district here in Connecticut that there is the talk of the surplus, and then you're going to have these additional monies. So I'll definitely be paying attention to see what are they doing. What are they doing to hire more Black and brown teachers? What are they doing at curriculum? How are they creating those supports with this extra funding? Is it the same old, same old? There's definitely, as you said, districts that don't need the money. Well, what are they going to do with those funds? So this is a time across the board that we should see some type, if everyone is being true to their call to action in dismantling systemic racism, places in education. You talked about eviction and so forth. That's huge, right? So many people, and it's not, a lot of people are looking at eviction. Those stopgaps of not evicting is huge for families. So to have that money there is really, really important. But then how do we look at the system of those that need some type of assistance to maintain their housing? Right.
Well, that's why some of this money will be helpful. It just has to get into the right hands.
Into the right hands.
Do that, and quickly. It's not, people are at risk of losing their homes and losing things right now, losing their apartments right at this moment. And I mean, look, the other piece of this is, too, that some of the people that are landlords are small-time landlords, right? They're not the Donald Trumps of the world.
That's right.
And so, the fact that the rent doesn't get paid also means they're not paying their mortgages, on their properties and things of that nature. And so that can cause a problem, too. So, we do want to keep that churn going. But, the government can provide resources to make that happen for people, then we need to, make sure that that happens and support them in doing that. So I just applaud the president-elects, coming out already. I appreciate the fact that he's really stepping in. Well, first of all, nobody's seen Donald Trump. I mean, other than when he went to the wall, and he's made a couple of video statements. But we have real leadership coming into place. It's not perfect leadership, and I'm not going to be fazed by the fact that Joe Biden's not perfect. But we do have leadership that's coming into place. We want to, be supportive, especially when it comes to helping those most marginalized at this moment, and really flipping the script on the way that things have been done.
I was just going to say, I think, we haven't seen him, but he's around. And I just want to do a shout out for Massachusetts. And I'm not a big Patriots fan, but you see, I think in the last couple of days, he's been giving out these medals. And, someone might be able to Google this because I don't know quite the names of the medals. But I will say, and I think the day after the riots happened, he gave out a couple of these distinguished presidential medals that people accepted. But Bill Belichick of the Patriots, who has been a big supporter of Trump, I'm very proud that he turned it down. I would have talked about him if he took it and if he showed up, but he did do the right thing, and he did do the nice statement, country first, before individual.
That was all publicity.
It might have been publicity, but look, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it because I do feel that although as we're saying he's out of sight and out of mind, he's still doing things. He's still doing things. And granted, it's the end of his presidency. There's some things as president he should be doing, but
I mean, look, if you're the
no one should be talking to him. That's my thing.
I agree with that.
No one should be acknowledging him at all.
Bill Belichick was the head football coach of a team called the Patriots in a place called Boston that tipped off the Revolutionary War with the Boston Tea Party, right?
Okay. So, like I said at the beginning,
that was all politics. He can't take that award from a guy that just caused the insurrection against his own government.
There were there were people who did, right? There were people out there who I don't know. So I'm just saying. I'm happy that he made the right decision, because when I did hear that, I was waiting for I know you're not trying to show up. I know you're not trying to accept this thing. So he clearly did the right thing, because there are plenty of people that we've seen that have not made the right decision when it came to Trump, and kind of just drank the juice. But I just think it's horrible. I think he needs to go away. And we just need to move quickly with this impeachment and enforcement of the law, right? Full enforcement of the law. These folks that are getting arraigned and held on full enforcement of those federal statutes, they should be looking at time. I don't want to see anything short of these people being incarcerated for the federal offenses that they have committed. It's just.
I got you. Well, look, we're up on our last break. And look, we're going to open up the phone lines now. You can give us a call, 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. We'll be glad to take your calls on the topics that we've been talking about. All right, let's be clear. The topics that we've been talking about. Again, 215-634-8065. This is Dwayne Royster, and with Antonia Soares Thompson, who's sitting in for the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler. You're listening to the Power Hour, and we'll be right back.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Announcing the Black Words Book Club, WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for February is Long Time Coming, Reckoning with Race in America by Michael Eric Dyson, a New York Times bestseller that traces the roots of racism from slavery and Jim Crow to police brutality. Be sure to listen live as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, February 9th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color. Keeping you informed. As a community service, WURD Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about where you can get no-cost, barrier-free COVID-19 testing this week. These locations offer free flu shots and coronavirus testing. Thursday, January 14th from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. at Mastery Charter School Pickett Campus, 5700 Wayne Avenue. And Friday, January 15th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Deliverance Church, 2001 West Lehigh Avenue. Stay informed and stay well with WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by challengeswefaced.org. Looking at the Schuylkill Expressway westbound, getting busy this morning from University through the Vine Expressway through the construction area. Westbound Vine Expressway Parkway through the Schuylkill. That is a bit slow. Southbound 95 delays. Cotman down through Bridge and Allegheny through Girard Building. Northbound side, no major problems. PA Turnpike, Blue Route 476. Pretty good ride so far this morning. Looking at 42, 55, 295 in New Jersey. Not too bad as of yet. Something's wrong. You can feel it. News is too biased. Social media too censored. Even more extreme ideology is tearing us apart. What is fueling the division? Visit challengeswefaced.org to learn more. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a WURD weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Increasing clouds today and a chance of a late afternoon shower. Then we get rain tonight. Before the wet weather arrives, the temperatures warm to 51 degrees this afternoon. The rain overnight ends before sunrise on Saturday. Sunshine in the morning Saturday, clouds in the afternoon, a high of 44. And a chilly, breezy, but mostly sunny day Sunday, up to 45. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley with your most accurate forecast. Count on it.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster, and sitting in for the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler today is Antonia Soares Thompson, Esquire.
Good morning.
Who is checking in with us. She's a former radio host up in Connecticut and New York, as well as being a child advocate and an attorney at law. So grateful that you took time out of your schedule to get up early in the morning.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right. Well, look, we have some callers on the line, so let's go to Ken from West Philly, who wants to talk about the Trump transition. Ken, welcome to the Power Hour.
Sir, we're black, and we're back, and I'm cranking this call in honor of a lot of people out there who are deceased, like Wayne Moore and Sister Barbara Jean Hope and Debbie Bell and a couple other folks. I got a fella who went down there, a friend of mine, went down to this interesting situation, thought that he would be not just there, you know, he would be observing it in this insurrection piece. Got down there, he did not think it would be what it was. Black guy.
Oh, wow.
and he ended up finding out that they were very, very auspiciously violent. He said he was scared out of his brains. And dear fellow then came back to Philadelphia, gave us a report on it. We need to be real clear about a couple of things, sir. You know, you've been bringing up about the Biden transition piece, and the piece that we're working on here, particularly in Philadelphia, the Unemployment Project, the Philadelphia Unemployment Project, everybody, get in contact with them. We've been to 2 of their demonstrations so far, and people need to get in contact with the Philadelphia Unemployment Project. These folk are working on unemployment bills. They went out and got ready to demonstrate in front of Toomey's office again. It would be about the 3rd demonstration that they would have had there, but Toomey cracked and peeled off, claimed that he was for some sort of restitution for people here in Philadelphia. So he's not running again whenever it is that he's going to run. My understanding is Mr. Fetterman is going to run for his position. Is that correct?
That is the latest. Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who was sat down by the state Republicans last week in the Pennsylvania State Senate, has decided that he's going to run for Senate in 2022 and run for Toomey's seat. Absolutely.
Everybody listen up. If you're black and you're back, and I don't care if you're white and you're an ally, it's time for you to rest up and get ready to take out any Republican that runs.
Great. Thanks, Ken. We appreciate you giving us a call this morning. And so, yeah, I mean, first of all, there were black people. Let me just say, there were black people.
I didn't see them. I was going to say that. I saw a couple, and I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure more pictures will come out, but I think you're absolutely right. The call is absolutely right. I do believe that there were people who were there for a protest, who were there to be part of, I don't even say, you know, they're there to support Trump, or whether they believe in some way that there was some fraud in this election. And I don't think they bought into what became the reality of that protest. I do believe that. So I could see, because I would be scared too. I mean, it was a scary sight to see all of that, and then know that there was no police enforcement. So I could totally see that. And I do get that there were folks that did not have the intent of overthrowing the United States government. But
there were pictures, right? So we know that there were Latinx folk down there, right?
Yes, I did.
I saw a lot of pictures of Asian folk with like Asians for Trump stuff that were out down there. Yeah. I saw black folk that were down there as well. And I guess I did see
black folks like doing the attack piece. I did see one brother and some of so that gave me some comfort a little bit. But again, all the videos aren't out.
I mean, I'm trying to understand how you can be a black person and be okay with this. That's really what I'm trying to. I don't get it. And it's just like, you know, we did a poll, and actually, what's interesting is, you know, we had you know, a poll that showed that young black men, 17% of them between the ages of 18 and 39, were going to vote for Trump. And I'm like, what on earth are you thinking about? This guy means you absolutely no good. I mean, you talk about voting against your self-interest.
Yeah.
Like, you know, voting for Trump is like a vote to put you in jail.
And I think part of it is not understanding their own history, not understanding how to self-advocate and vote for things in your best interest. But I know I had a young brother in my office that the day after the election was like, oh yeah, I voted for him. And he voted for him because his white counterparts, these young college graduates, his white friends were voting for him, and was convinced in the whole mantra of, you know, no Hillary Clinton, she's not about the safety of the country, blah, blah, blah. And then I looked at him like, but you know, you're different from them. This is going to come back in this way to, this is how this is not in your interest. Fast forward, when I saw him after this election, he's like, yeah, no, I did not vote for him this time around. So I think a lot of it has to do with people understanding our history and how we got here, and understanding how to self-advocate and what it means to vote for this clown. But, you know, but he was a reality star, right? He was a master and is a master of getting people to drink the Kool-Aid with the sound bites and the bullying and so forth, and getting away with not having any substance to what he was doing.
Right.
Or what he was trying to do, right? So I can see how people were brainwashed into this, and it's sad. And hopefully it is a wake-up call that they will understand how important it is, but I don't believe it. I don't think so. I think people are still going to be naive and are still going to not understand how important it is to vote for your best interests, sadly.
That's actually very sad and disappointing. And look, I'm not expecting black folk to be monolithic, right? I mean, we're not monolithic. We can have different opinions, but we should be able to see folk that just mean us absolutely no good, and be able to say, you know what, that this is not a way that we should go as a community, as a people. Even some of their, they say good things, but their history, like, you need to look at people's history in addition to listening to what they're saying, right? And Trump had a 50-year work history to which you could go back and look, from his businesses and the things that he's done and say, this guy means us no good, and we need to go move in a different direction.
Well, hopefully one thing that he has enlightened us about of these people that don't understand the power is this, right? That if you allow the president, commander-in-chief, to have these views and to not have any substance to his politics outside of hatred, this is what ends up. You have Americans storming the Capitol of the United States of America.
Yep.
So hopefully it is a wake-up call for people to understand that you do have to have leadership. You do have to have people in these positions of power, because if you don't have a person in this position of power that is an ally of yours, this is what happens. You have people storming the Capitol, which is just indicative of what is happening with law enforcement and the shooting of black people by police. Is because you have people in positions of power that make policies and processes that allow for people to get away with this. So one thing I'll just say that I need to see from Biden and Harris is I need to see some federal legislation that is specifically going to address law enforcement and the murder of black people.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm looking. It might not happen tomorrow, but over the next 4 years, they have the opportunity, if there's ever been an opportunity, to change and put legislative policies in place that can move that needle. I believe it's right now.
And we should say that there are several U.S. Capitol Police that have been suspended for suspected collusion with the insurrectionists.
Well,
So,
I don't know if you saw on one of the pictures on Huffington Post that there were two, I think it was West Virginia police officers who did a selfie in front of a statue in the Capitol and were on Facebook talking about, well, I didn't participate, but I'm all right with it. And now they're surprised, again, the snitches, the people that turned that in, that are shocked. It's like, really? Should you be surprised that you might be losing your job over this? So part of, I think, the snitching that's happening is that people realize you may lose your job. If there's any affiliation that you have to someone, a close affiliation to someone who was part of this, you might lose your job.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm pretty sure you are going to lose your job, whether it's going to be the social pressure that is coming out. There are going to be consequences of what you did. And I want to say, and not so much because you were at a Black Lives Matter protest or you were at an anti-abortion protest. You were trying to you were attacking the United States of America at the Capitol.
Absolutely.
And that alone is just not, even for white folks.
It's not cool.
That's not cool.
Well, look, we're out of time. This time has flown so fast. Thank you, Antonio Soros Thompson, for being here and sitting in for Mark Kelly Tyler today. We deeply appreciate you. Thank you for Kwesa for holding down the boards. Everybody checking on the Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be back on Monday morning at 6 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions. Listen, folks, stay tuned for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Hey, have a good one.
Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head.